This is Speak of the Devils on AZ Family Sports.
Welcome to Speak of the Devils, the premier television show for Sun Devil football. I'm Brad Denny with 3TV.
I'm Joe Healey with DevilsDigest.com.
Joe, it's not often that you give up 40 points at home, you lose by a couple scores, but you leave feeling pretty good about your football team.
Yeah, it's not always the best to be a big moral victory proponent, but for Arizona State football, and as tumultuous as things have been for the last several weeks and dating back to last year, knowing that this is a rebuild, knowing that this is a project with Kenny Dillingham and staff that they're putting together, when you have a game like last Saturday, there certainly are positive things that you can take away from it. Now, like you said, you don't want to make an every week habit out of allowing 40 plus points, 500 plus yards of total offense, but against an offense and a team like USC, again, there are positive things that can be extracted from that game and hopefully applied this week and moving forward for ASU.
Yeah, so we'll be breaking some of that down a little bit later on the show. We're going to take a look at the quarterback position and some of the differences in play calling that helped ASU rebound from a shutout loss 2 weeks ago to 28 points against the number 5 team in the country. But I think right now we would be remiss, Joe, if we didn't talk about the newest folk hero in Tempe. Cameron Skattebo did just about everything for the Sun Devils on Saturday night. Over 100 yards rushing, a dynamic 52-yard touchdown reception in the fourth quarter to keep things going on. He threw passes, he punted. Nothing this man can't do.
Making me feel good about making him, my number one player to keep an eye on, or whatever the designation was that we had in the preseason. An exciting player. He's someone that we both were really eager to see what he could do this year. Really saw that on the field last Saturday in ways that I don't think we've ever seen before. I mean, ASU has had some really versatile players, the DJ Fosters, the Rudy Burgesses of the world, Jamal Miles, that sort of thing. But I don't know if we've seen one with a stat line that included as many things as we did last week with Cam Skattebo. I mean, a running back punting the ball. That might be a first. I don't know that I've ever seen a non-punter kicker, maybe a Taylor Kelly-style pooch punt out of a quarterback. But a tailback doing that, that's a new thing to me.
And he also audibled out of what would have been his second punt of the night on the fourth down and completed a 25-yard pass to keep a drive alive. So the legend of Cam Skattebo continues to build. We'll see what he can do. But he's off to a really good start, really valuable. It was good to see that, with the kind of a more aggressive approach for the Sun Devils offensively, they're able to put some points, sustain drives, even with some subpar quarterback play, but some of the dynamic playmakers on the outside got a little bit more involved. Elijah Badger had a season-high 9 catches. Jalen Conyers coming back from injury. Really strong showing by the tight end, getting things going along with a good running game against the Trojans. And, I mean, ultimately, Joe, when you're hosting the number 5 team in the country, coming off a shutout loss, you're in a rebuilding situation. If you have the ball with a chance to take the lead in the fourth quarter at home, you'll take that situation 10 times out of 10.
Yeah, I mean, that's something that, again, there are items of this game that happened last Saturday that are positives. And I think that that's something that's important for Sun Devil fans to understand. And by and large, I think that is the case. It needs to be understood that ASU is in an uncharacteristically difficult position right now. Between what happened last season on the field with the 3-9 record, with the NCAA allegations of violations, with the coaching change, the postseason ban, the whole barrel of things that have occurred over the last 1 to 2 years with ASU. When you get in these sort of games, again, you can extract positives from them. There was just a sense of excitement. There was just a little bit more energy, a lot more energy, quite frankly, because that Fresno State game left a great deal to be desired. And both of us predicted blowout losses. And that was not just something we said out of, spite or anger or frustration, or say, they're just going to get their tails whipped. No, that was something I was genuinely concerned about happening last week. So ASU did about as good as it could. It was a 33-point underdog, something somewhere along those lines. I mean, that's astronomical. So, once again, I know that moral victories are not necessarily what you want to see every week by any means, and that does stop this week, because I don't believe that there's a moral victory that could be taken if ASU happens not to win against Cal coming up, which we'll talk about obviously in detail, but positives to focus on for sure.
I think one of the major takeaways for me was that through the game and going up against the number 5 team in the country, you saw flashes of what the finished product of Sun Devil football wants to be. Kenny Dillingham has been talking about in comparing a lot of this program's development to what he saw as part of Mike Norvell's staff at Florida State, and just kind of really rough early going, but now obviously one of the elite teams in the country. And that he used the bamboo metaphor. You water, and ultimately down the road, you see the things kind of blossom into fruition. And you saw with the offensive mindset and the aggressiveness there and the success they were having, a defense really getting after it. And of course, activating the Valley. It was a sellout crowd. The energy was there. We saw some procedural penalties by USC. It kind of as directly results of the energy in the crowd. And both Kenny and the players at postgame talked about just what a difference that really made, and the fans staying the whole way through, and they gave them a reason to stay the whole way through.
Yeah, this is something that you can build upon. And guys, you talk about the bamboo comments. I don't know what it is about some of the things that Kenny Dillingham says, and I don't blame him for it. Just people really take them to distance between his preference for Train the Band and bamboo. I mean, I like using this
Truffle fries.
Illustrative type of talk. Some folks like to really fixate on it. But yes, this is a foundation that can be something that creates some momentum. And I honestly think that this game against USC can pay dividends down the road. Sometimes this sort of thing, even in defeat, can be beneficial throughout this season and moving forward. We saw some energy and excitement, just a very different deal, again, in defeat. And it's odd to use this terminology because it's racking my brain. It's difficult to think of a game in recent history or even that I've seen ASU play where you have this moral victory type of situation, but that was the case. They can build upon that, but once again, that train stops this week because if ASU goes up to Cal and doesn't win, I don't think you have that same energy in this program.
Yeah, it's going to be a crucial game. ASU's first road test of the season after opening up with 4 straight home games, taking on Cal, a team that, we'll talk about that ASU has a good shot of beating. This is going to be kind of an early bellwether test for this Sun Devil program in terms of where they are along on this rebuild process, some positive momentum in terms of the offense getting back on track. Still some big questions, especially on the offensive line, and it's still a pretty good defense on that side of the ball that would kept things going a little bit later on. But after the break, we are going to be talking with ASU tight ends coach Jason Mohns. Welcome back to Speak of the Devils. And on Saturday night, ASU got a nice boost on the offensive side of the ball with the return of Jalen Conyers, the star tight end for the Sun Devils. And overall, the group played a pretty big role in ASU's offensive resurgence. So after Tuesday's practice, I had a chance to catch up with tight ends coach Jason Mohns. So overall impression, kind of the tight end group after facing USC.
Yeah, I think we're getting better. Obviously, it was good to have Jalen kind of fight and get back ahead of schedule and give us the spark that he gives us. I thought Messiah had a really good game. He was really physical at the point of attack, really getting after those guys. I mean, that's really his skill set, and he takes a lot of pride in it. And he was good. I mean, I thought he set the tempo up front physically. So, and then Ryan Morgan came in, gave us some really good, valuable reps. Same thing with Bryce. So, good effort for those guys. Jalen was productive. I think he had 70+ yards receiving and had some big plays. And we had a couple other opportunities that were right there that could have popped as well. So, I thought all in all it was a good effort. I just like the way we competed. I think that was the biggest thing, is from a physicality standpoint, from a mindset standpoint, like we stayed in that fight for 4 quarters, and that's what we really wanted to see.
Yeah, obviously coming off a really tough game against Fresno State, getting shut out. But how did you see that, just the kind of the collective mindset of just the tight ends and perhaps the offense as a whole, just kind of rebound and puts forth a pretty promising effort?
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, obviously it's the culture that Coach Dillingham's instilled here. Is we believe in ourselves. We knew that we were better than what happened at Fresno, and unfortunately, when you turn the ball over like that, you never get a chance to get in a rhythm. And I mean, the fact that the defense played as well as they did, I think gave us some hope, which is like, if we can just take care of the ball and we can connect on some of these opportunities that are there, this could be, look a whole lot different. And so we believe going into that game. I mean, there wasn't 1 second where any of us were like, oh, we're not any good and we got no chance. I mean, we're way better than what we're showing, and we just need to keep plugging and keep getting better every day and keep finding our rhythm and our identity. And I think Coach did a good job coming in and kind of instilling the belief in ourselves and really kind of starting to establish what our identity is going to be. And I think our guys responded well to it. It was awesome to see.
When we talked in the offseason, you mentioned that Bryce Pierre is a guy that's got a lot of potential, and with Jalen out 2 weeks ago, led the team in receptions or receiving yards. Seeing him more involved, what are you starting to see from him in terms of now that he's getting more reps, more live action to kind of fulfill that potential?
Yeah, he's a terrific player. I mean, there's not probably many programs in the country that could have a guy like number 12 go out and not have a huge drop off. And I thought Bryce came in and picked up the slack and really probably had his best game as a Sun Devil. Made plays in the run game, made plays in pass protection, and obviously made plays on the ball and was efficient. So we have the utmost faith in Bryce. I tell him, like, when he comes in, we don't have to change anything we do. Anything that we can do with 12 on the field, we can do with 13 on the field, and that's a good feeling, from a play calling standpoint, and obviously from the position coach standpoint, when you got that guy that can come in and do everything that the other guy can do.
And of course, having 12 back on the field, one of the conference's best at that position. What was it like, just kind of the infusion that he was able to give the offense? And it looked like
that the offense now with Kenny calling plays, maybe getting the playmakers like him a little bit more involved.
Yeah, no, when you got that guy in the field, you know you got a chance, to make a play anytime. And whether you got man coverage or it's a busted play or whatever, I mean, he's a big target. He makes plays with the ball in his hand. Run after contact is elite. And so, having that guy in the field is special. He's a special playmaker. But, I think we get in a position too where we can get into a really good rotation of players, getting guys lots of reps, keeping them fresh, and that way Jalen's always on the field in crucial downs. He's never gassed, he's never tapping to come out because we have guys that can spell him. And so I think that's what we're really fighting to now is like getting into our depth, really trusting our depth and playing guys and rolling guys in and out in different personnel packages. So when we do get into certain situations, we got to make sure that we got the guys that fit that scheme on the field and they're fresh and ready to go.
And of course, with him back, your unit's fully healthy. The offensive line, unfortunately, not the same. Seeing you guys working in conjunction with some of the tackles and just with the offensive line kind of as banged up as it is, with the tight end group, what's it been like just trying to being able to help and kind of help those guys in the trenches?
Yeah, no, it's a collective effort. We need to be able to run the ball and establish a run game. I thought we ran the ball very effectively against USC. Obviously that's a testament to the O-line and the guys that have stepped in and stepped up. But also, our tight ends being involved as well. And Ryan Morgan was phenomenal in the run game last week, and didn't play a ton of snaps, but the snaps he played, he was very efficient and effective and physical. So yeah, that's part of the deal is tight ends and the O-line working together. That's what makes a tight end special, is the ability to not only make plays, on the ball, but also go down, put your hand in the ground and get after people and be an impact player up front. So it's good to see we're continuing to build and work together. And when you've had some guys in different spots, sometimes that that timing and that communication, all that, it just needs some work. But like today, just getting into individuals and getting some tackle tight end combo stuff done, that's crucial. And it's fun to see these guys. They're growing into a team. They care about each other. They got a lot of fight and they believe in Coach Dillingham and what we're building here. So I don't think we're never gonna fold up our tents and pack it in. We're gonna keep fighting it to get better every single day.
Heading up to the Bay for a road test against Cal, a team that typically has pretty good defense, good defensive-minded head coach. What are some of the things that kind of jump out about the Cal defense and what they bring to complicate things for you guys?
Yeah, I just think they're very sound. They're scheme-wise, they're sound. You can't scheme them into really being in a bad number situation. They have answers for what you try to do. Fundamentally, they're very sound up front, not overly aggressive, but they will bring pressures when the situation fits. So I just think they're very well coached. You can tell from a staff standpoint, they're all on the same page. They know what their adjustments are in different situations. They're not going to beat themselves. They're going to force you to come out and execute and move the ball, and they don't give up a lot of big explosive plays. They try to keep the stuff in front of them. And secondary is very talented. D-line is physical and disciplined. So it's a good-looking group. They've got a good defense. That's why they went toe-to-toe with Auburn on the road, and they've played well up to this point.
I know it's really exciting for you to come back and coach at ASU with obviously the family ties and the history here. Now that you have a month in, 4 times running through that Tillman Tunnel and in that maroon and gold, what's it just been like? Just having like actual games under your belt as a Sun Devil coach.
Yeah, no, it's been awesome. I mean, the first game walking out and seeing Thunderstruck from the sideline, knowing that I was a part of the team. I mean, that was pretty special. It kind of gave me chills, to be honest with you. And getting to experience the devil walk with my kids, and seeing the looks in my kids' faces when they're walking through with the cheerleaders and the band playing, and just some of those things is really what's awesome. And I said last week we were pregame, and I got a bunch of former players that are here, yeah. Bram and Tristan Monday and Javen and Will Schaefer and John Butler and Magnum. I mean, we got a whole group of guys. DJ Foster is on the staff, and I was like, this time last year I was preparing for Desert Edge, and I said we're getting ready to play USC. So I try to keep things in perspective. I'm blessed to be where I'm at. I don't take it for granted for a day. There's never been a day I showed up and like, man, it's it's a grind, it's hard, but I love where I'm at. I love what I'm doing, and I love where we're going and what the future's going to look like.
All right, welcome back to Speak of the Devils. Now, when we look at last Saturday's game against USC, of course, coming off a shutout loss and then putting up 28 points on the number 5 team in the country, a few things changed. Probably most notably, Kenny Dillingham, the head coach, took over play calling duties from offensive coordinator Bo Baldwin, and right off the bat, Joe, we saw a much more aggressive team, kind of digging in a little bit into the bag of tricks, getting a little creative. And obviously, some of that's due to the injury situation, especially on the offensive line that Sundals have had. But overall, just you see Kenny Dillingham kind of going for broke. He mentioned after the game, and just like the wins and losses don't really matter this year because, of course, the postseason ban. So he's going for broke, and it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was reminiscent of last year when Sean Aguano took over play calling duties in that game at Colorado, and things blew up in a very positive way. I don't know what it is, but when you get that jolt of newness in the offensive game planning, it's been doing some things for the Devils these last couple of seasons. And yeah, it just helped it be exciting, which is imperative right now because you want to keep the fan energy as high as it possibly can be. Yeah, I agree that the final record doesn't mean a whole lot. You certainly want to win as many games as you possibly can and get things going as positively as possible heading into the Big 12 next season. But there are intricate details that are important here. You got to see the forest for the trees, and things like last week in that game where you got some more energy, some more juice. That's a positive thing you can build on.
Now, Drew Pine, the ASU quarterback, did get the start, of course. ASU's opening day starter, Jaden Rashada, is going to be continuing out for a number of weeks still with an injury. Trenton Bourget, who did get the start earlier on in the season, he was out of the game with an ankle injury. So Drew Pine got the starting nod and quite honestly didn't really play too well. He was kind of reminiscent of the Drew Pine that we saw in spring practices rather than the guy in fall camp who really could have put on a strong showing and made a run at the starting job. Overall finished with 2 touchdown passes, just over 220 yards passing, but 2 critical turnovers. Now, ASU's defense has been pretty good in terms of limiting the damage of turnovers, but they did give up a touchdown and he was making some plays and holding onto the ball a little bit too long. And when you have a banged up offensive line, Joe, that's just not a good recipe.
Yeah, turnovers, that's brutal stuff. That's going to end any momentum that you have. I mean, the quarterback position as a whole for Arizona State is just unbelievable right now, and to no fault of their own. I'm a big note stat kind of guy, trend kind of guy, superlative kind of guy when it comes to college football and ASU. And I don't know that I've ever seen, certainly not an Arizona State team, but it's hard to recall really any teams across the country that I've seen where you're starting 3 different quarterbacks by the 4th game of the season. I mean, that is unheard of. So that is difficult for any offense to get any sort of consistency and momentum going on. And obviously ASU is going to go back to a different starting quarterback for this upcoming game. So the mixture of starting QBs, I mean, this is not normal stuff. So credit to the players to be able to, just do the best that they possibly can. But going back to what you're talking about, the turnovers, again, that is something that is just going to absolutely demoralize the team if that continues. Drew Pine is going to be out for a little bit, so we'll see Trenton Bourget, and him protecting the ball is going to be of ultimate importance in these games moving forward.
Yeah, Bourget is going to be taking over the starting job. And of course, that's something that he did at the last half of last season. And behind an offensive line that's still missing a lot of key guys, and this offensive line gave up 8 sacks to USC, 7, Joe, in the second half when ASU still was very much in that game. So it's going to be a banged up offensive line yet again, but Bourget's strengths, his football IQ is off the charts, and he's a guy that can kind of diagnose plays and really know what to do with the ball before the snap. And he's going to have to probably do that because a lot of this stuff, you got to get the ball out in 2.5 seconds. But we did see with Kenny Dillingham taking over the play calling, Elijah Badger, Jalen Conyers, Camp Skattebo, those playmakers were getting the ball quickly and getting the ball effectively in space.
The number 8 has not been a lucky number for the Sun Devils these past couple of weeks. You had the 8 turnovers against Fresno State and the 8 sacks allowed last week. So hopefully they can put that in a positive direction. Maybe you get a Kalen Ballage style 8 touchdowns against Cal. That would be nice. But yes, those are things that definitely need to be cleaned up. We don't know how that's going to go. I mean, the offensive line has been completely banged up, issues even with the coaching staff availability. So that's something that is just being put together bit by bit each week. And you'd like to see some positivity there this weekend.
Yeah, as you mentioned, offensive line coach Saga Tuatele missed last the Saturday's game with a medical situation. Not back as of yet. It seems like he is kind of on the mend. So best wishes, of course, to Saga Tuatele and his recovery. Stephen Miller, the GA, former ASU offensive lineman, was coaching up the unit on Saturday as well as in practice here on Tuesday. So a lot of different components at play here for the Sun Devil offense, looking to kind of keep that positive momentum going into Saturday's game against Cal, which we'll preview right after the break.
Welcome back to Speak of the Devils. ASU heads on the road for the first time in 2023, heading up to Berkeley to play the California Golden Bears. As part of the Sun Devils' farewell tour of the Pac-12 conference, they will play Cal. This all-time series is tied 17-17. So I'm sure these teams probably will play at some point again in the future, but the winner this Saturday will take that trophy home as far as the Pac-10, Pac-12 winner of this series. It's kind of odd. This is only the second time in the last 7 years that these two teams have met. When it's all said and done, it'll be one of the fewest games played against a Pac-10, Pac-12 foe that ASU will have. Some weird oddities there. They are coached, of course, by Justin Wilcox. He's been around since 2017. Makes him oddly the second longest tenured active coach in the Pac-12 behind Kyle Whittingham, who's been at Utah for the last 50 years. So Cal is 2-2 on the season, wins against Idaho and North Texas, losses against Auburn, and a blowout loss last week against Washington. They have some talent at quarterback. They'll play 2 guys out there, some running backs that can get the job done. Their defense has really stepped up this year as well. So this is a huge game for both teams. The Bears have a tough schedule after ASU. Obviously, the Sun Devils are trying to get as much momentum as they possibly can throughout this 2023 season.
It's definitely a game that ASU can win. And so we're breaking down some of our keys to the game. And I think, the number one right off the bat, just keep that energy from the USC game, even though it did end in a loss, and just continue to attack, be aggressive, and just, get off to a strong start, because Cal's kind of a little bit been sluggish so far this year. Not a team that necessarily has a ton of offensive firepower. So if you can get them on the ropes early, your chances improve.
Yeah, you want to see that juice. You want to see that momentum. You want to see that fun that they were having in Mountain America Stadium against a top 5 team. You want to bring that same thing up to Berkeley against Cal on the road, not just have that be something that you do in front of a full crowd at home. As you mentioned, a strong start is going to be huge. Last week, Cal was down 45-12 against Washington at halftime.
Not great.
The week before against FCS Idaho, they were down in the midpoint of the second quarter, 17-0. So Cal has shown some issues these past couple weeks as far as slow starts. If ASU's going to get a win up in Berkeley, getting a big start is going to be huge.
Yeah, and I think that leads into the next key to the game, from no turnovers, especially from quarterback Trenton Bourguet, because turnovers have really hurt ASU so far this season. The defense has bailed them out in a lot of situations, giving up just 1 touchdown on the 11 offensive turnovers committed by the Sun Devils so far this year. Bourguet, as you mentioned, high IQ player, knows what to do with the ball, but behind the offensive line, the pressure might be getting in his face quicker than he might be a little bit more comfortable. So get it out to your playmakers. Feed those playmakers as well while you're at it, because Badger, Conyers, let them eat.
Naturally, when you're having all these turnovers that we've seen the past few weeks, especially against Fresno State, you're going to be near the bottom of the list in the nation. ASU is tied for 127th nationally on the year with 11 lost turnovers. Trenton Bourguet coming back in as QB1, got to take care of the football. Also, Cal has a very good run defense. They only allow 106 yards per game, 3.5 yards per carry, only 4 rushing touchdowns. So it's going to be very important that Trenton Bourguet, when he drops back to pass, has eyes around him at all times, completes his passes so that he can move the Sun Devil offense down the field.
I think that another key to the game is going to be shoring up that run defense. ASU was gashed by USC. Now, you think USC's a passing team, but they had great success on the ground. Cal likes to run the ball. It's the strength of their offense. Jaden Ott is one of the best backs in the conference, and if Sam Jackson V is the quarterback for Cal, very mobile in his own right. So a lot of threats on the ground for the Sun that could be coming at the Sun Devils. Their run D has to be better.
With all due respect to Cal and its quarterbacks and his offense, thank goodness you don't have to face Caleb Williams, the defending Heisman Trophy winner, who is a magician out there and can take anything the distance. So you don't have that factor, but you do have some mobile players, some talented players there at running back, both at quarterback as well, that ASU needs to keep an eye on.
All right, time for our game predictions here as we close things out. I think ASU's offense is still very much a work in progress, especially behind that offensive line that's still banged up. But I think Trenton Bourguet has proven that he can be an efficient game manager, and that's not a bad term. Get the ball to the playmakers. I think the ASU's defense has been strong all year. I think they get the job done on the road, 27-21 Sun Devils.
I think that special teams will be big in this game. It's a homecoming for both Dario Longhetto and Slater Zellers back up at Cal. They are former Golden Bears. I'm picking a 30-28 Sun Devil victory.
All right, so kind of quite the tune change that we had from last week. So appreciate all turning in. Make sure you download our full podcast episode. We tackled the review and the preview in much greater detail with some great guests as well. You can find that anywhere you get the podcast, Apple, Spotify, everywhere. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week to preview a pretty big game, Joe, against Colorado.